don't even think you know this, but like I wish I would have said this in the podcast. Whenever you said we need to get you on, I was like, yeah, let's go. And you're like soon. I was like, yeah, it's for real.
Yeah.
As soon as I hung up with you,
Yeah.
Sam, you will not believe it. You will not believe it.
Podcast where we talk about life, legacy, and leadership. Today, I have Sam and Coen.
Let's go.
And
Awesome.
where are you guys from?
Robinson.
Yeah, Little Rock.
Robinson in the Little Rock.
Yep.
Okay,
Sir.
I love it. So just to tell our audience a little bit about these two guys, and then I'll let y'all do a little more of your bio. They are Brook Hill campers.
Yep.
They are JCs, possibly after today. They're doing hiring in the other room right now, so they could be JCs after today, or maybe they were former JCs. We'll see.
Yeah. Let's go.
No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I heard their story. You guys started a Bible study a little bit. Now, I want y'all to tell about that. But just to let those who are listening to know, is we're going to just share a little bit about starting something, about, just kind of what is it like to start your own Bible study or start your own whatever and pioneer something at a young age. And so I can't wait to get into that and then see whatever else we talk about with leadership. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Sam. Why don't you start?
Yes, sir. I'm a junior at Robinson. I'm on the soccer team, lead the club with Coen.
Yep.
Just how about you, Coen?
Yeah,
I'm a junior. I go to Robinson, like you said. I play baseball. Big into like hunting, fishing, but I like outdoorsy stuff. I like Brook Hill a lot. So
y'all are normal dudes, is what we're saying.
Yeah, just normal
y'all
guys.
A couple weird guys that started a club. Just normal guys.
Dudes. Yes, sir.
Hopefully.
Not these special. My dad's a pastor, so I know everything about
one
everything.
guy.
We have a kid who's that's pastor.
That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking that, but I'm just saying you guys don't have this formal training, and
No, sir.
you're just like God. So let's start with the story. Tell us how God laid that on y'all's hearts, and y'all can kind of bounce back and forth.
Yeah, it was just crazy how it started. So I was literally just sitting at a table, and there's this new kid at my school named Caden. And I go up to him, just introduce myself, and then literally like our first conversation, he goes, "You seem like a Christian. Is that true?" And then I'm like, "Yes, I'm a Christian." He's like, "Do you want to start a club?" Immediately I say yes. And then my friend Coen comes, sits down. We tell him what we're talking about. He immediately says yes. And our friend Cross comes, sits down. We just tell him what we were talking about, and he says yes. And we start brainstorming on some names. We land on the name Jesus Club. I know it's very
Super
creative.
Very creative.
Yes.
You guys
Jesus,
are creators.
I know it. Let's go.
And then we land on this, and then we decide, like, let's do it every single Wednesday, 7:30, and we all agree. So we go up to our athletic director, who runs kind of our school driven, and he approves it. And that's how it started. And literally our first club was like in the field house, and people were like throwing balls everywhere. Like we couldn't barely read.
Yeah, so I'm gonna that's kind of like the logistics of it.
Yeah.
But man, I just remember I got to work Brook Hill for the first time this summer as a JC, and I loved Brook Hill growing up. I loved just being at camp. It was the highlight of my summer, no doubt. And
Definitely.
but for some reason, I like when it came time to like being a JC, I didn't want to. Like I remember I told everybody, I was like, I'm gonna do it. And then when it came up, I cowered. I was like, I don't know. I can't be like those counselors. I had Hayden Youngblood reach out and was like, hey man, your name isn't on here. You need to sign up. And I signed up super late that night, like past 12. I was like, I think I missed the deadline. And he's like, nah, like I'm pretty sure you're gonna get it. And so I was like, all right, bet. I did it, and again, I mean, just so fulfilled. That was the best week of my life. Best 2 weeks. I did the 2 week, and it was so much fun. But yeah, when I came back home.
Sorry, you said you were so fulfilled, and I'm going to do this several times.
Oh,
I'm going to
sure.
interrupt y'all because I want to dive. Like, what about it? So, if you're listening to this, like, what made you guys love that,
dude? I really just think like it's something that's not for us. Like you have to put your own selfish desires away. As a camper, it's like it's fun, dude. Camp's fun, and I mean you're there to have fun, and it's easy to miss the purpose there when you're with your friends. I mean, I never went to camp without my friends, but I signed up for Brook Hill not knowing who I was going to be with, and of course I made friends with the staff. The staff's great. It's like there's no other place like this. But yeah, when I was working there, I was like I'm for the kids. I'm serving for the kids, and mainly like you're working for God. It's such an easy way to serve God, and just so fulfilling. I just remember coming back and was like, it made the real world seem bland. I was like, dude, Brook Hill is where it's at.
Yeah.
And so,
And coming back, I mean, you could ask any of our friends, like, that's what we talked about so much. And, like, seeing the need, like, it helped us a lot in our real lives. Like, you know.
we're lifeguards.
Yeah.
So,
We had a
say-
lifeguard job.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just, like, there's trash, we're like, hey, see the need. And we were just, like,
Yup.
kind of, like, joke around. But, like,
Yeah.
we really were meaning what we are saying. Like,
Yeah.
we just had this new, like, work ethic and stuff.
Yeah, no, and I know our friends got tired of hearing about Brook Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, even the ones that didn't go to Brook Hill, the ones that do, they understand. They
we apologize ahead of time.
no, we
for-
do. It's the Brook Hill fever. You get it after you go. But man, we were just so pumped, and that's all that's on my mind. So like I said, I came back from Brook Hill, and I was like, I gotta find something to do during the school year. I gotta find
That's
a way to have this feeling throughout the school year. I can't go 10 months without feeling this again. And so yeah, I sat at the table one day, and they were like, dude, like I feel called to start something. And I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like it can be uncomfortable, but like let's do it. And again, dude, we started on a Wednesday morning. A whole 6 people showed up, and it was like, and we're 4 of them. So 2 other people showed up. 2 other people showed up.
I
And
love
we didn't have a place to go, so we were just in the field house, which is just an indoor football field. Junior high practice going on. We're reading the word, and we have a football fly around where it's like almost hit us, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then we're like, all right, who wants to pray? Nobody. The 2 people don't raise their hands, so we pray, and it's just like whistles blowing and cussing, and
Terrible.
it's like, man, this is like hard environment to kind of to get like adapt to. But man, it like after I was like, that club was great.
Yeah.
Less than 2 months later, we get clearance to go into a team room because our club is getting so big we can't fit in there anymore.
Yeah.
Our team, our like film room holds 100 people. We fill it up, and it's like 60 plus people.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
dude, we're like, this is not us. Like, this is all God. And I'm so thankful that he did it the way he did. Like, we would not be as prepared. Again, when we first started, it was kind of like we were reading off a script. We had our feet in the shallow end. He didn't throw us in the deep end, which I really appreciate. And but once we got there, dude, we got a feel for it. We knew like what not and what to do just from learning. And yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, we learned so much from the beginning. Like, all right, the field house was not going to work. There's so much stuff, so we upgraded to the team room, and then just like how we did it. Like our first one was almost like they were watching us, like a podcast. Like they were just watching us. We wanted to make leaders. You know what I mean? Like we were so gracious that we had this opportunity to lead, but we wanted to make leaders out of that and to inspire people to go out and share the word. You know, that's one of the big things. We wanted our club to kind of be like the light in Joe T. Robinson.
Yeah,
And I think we've
yeah.
seen like a big shift. I
Oh,
mean,
for sure.
I never once heard people talking about their faith. I never saw anyone out reading their Bible at school. And now that's what we see. Like,
Dude, it's
been
crazy.
such a big shift. And kind of just if you want to hear like how our club runs, we like go through chapters of the Bible, and then we split up into sections, and then we give a little bit, and then we like ask questions, trying to make it interactive and stuff. And it's been going
It's
good.
so crazy how it started. It's like, it's crazy.
You know, there's so much to dive into there. You know, first off, culture is natural,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So at your school, you're going to have a culture.
Yeah.
And what y'all are basically doing is changing the culture.
Exactly.
And over time, you know, what we never can see is 3 years from now.
Yeah.
All we can see is right now.
Of course.
And so starting this, you don't know the movement, not only when you're there,
Yeah.
but think about in 4 years, what could happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
All because y'all said yes. And I
Yeah.
know there's people that are going to be listening to this that are feeling the same call. The question is, will you step up? Because
Yeah.
I know there had to have been a moment for the 2 of you where it's like, can we really do this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always the, hey, I want to,
Oh yeah.
but then when it comes time to actually starting the first one, 'cause I think the first one's the hardest,
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
right?
And man, it stays hard. Like it's when you
Yeah.
get in a room too, because again, we would do workout. I had baseball workouts every Wednesday morning, so I was like, we'd finish around 7. Our club's at 7:30. Or no, like 7:15, not 7, like 7:15. So I'm jumping in the shower, getting ready. I'm getting in there, and I walk in, and there's like more people than I care to count. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, like
Yeah.
this is gonna be like I'm in for it. But
Right.
man, you have that nerve, and a way that our club starts, like we have 4 groups. We kind of sit in the front, and I usually start. And so I'm reading or I'm talking or we open up in prayer. I know like my first time I start speaking, it's like whoa, I need to clear my throat. Like I need
Right.
like my voice. But as soon as you go in there, I just pray, like, God, let me lead. Keep me, like, don't let me stress out about this, God. Let your will be done. Let me speak in a way that honors you. And man, it works.
Yeah,
I
that's
was like,
huge. Like every single time before club, just always pray to God, like, please use me as a vessel. Don't
Yeah.
let my thoughts, don't let my words be out. Let your words be out. Just use me to impact these people into a lifetime of following you, God, just every single time.
I know a big thing he said was like our goals for the club. And it was like, we talked about being like starting a light for our school. That was my biggest thing. I was like, man, I really want to make like our school a better light. Cause we've kind of had a rough environment. We've had shootings.
Yeah.
We've had like every year we usually have a person that dies at our school, and it's terrible. And we're like,
Jeez.
man, it's with gang violence and all that. It's like, man, we've got to start something. Like something has to change. And it's weird when you go to school and you're having to walk through a metal detector. It's like this is odd. So we're like, why can't we start something different? Like this is not how God wants us to live. I go to Brook Hill, it's like it's the best place ever. It's because people are living for the Lord. It's like, why when I go to school is it different? So we wanted to start that. And one of my friends also had the goal of he wanted to reach one person. He wanted to find a person to like impact on, like plant a seed. And we'll get into later, but dude, that dream comes true. Like those goals
Definitely.
came true. It just took like being persistent. I mean, since the first day of school till now, I don't know how many weeks we've done. A lot.
A lot.
Minus
Yeah.
a couple snow days throwing us off and a little Christmas break and stuff. But dude, we've been going strong
Yeah.
every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Yeah.
I love this because Hetty, our founder of Brook Hill, and I don't know if you've watched her podcast, but her whole concept was build your own Brook Hill.
Yeah.
Right? You love being here. You love the experience that you have. And that's why people get tired of hearing it, because people are sharing the experience that they had here, and it was a good experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And her whole point is don't complain about where you're at. Change it.
Exactly.
You know, and y'all have heard me say, you know, there's you got three choices. You either survive where you're at, and that's where a lot of people are. They're just surviving their team or their school or their friend group. You can change it, which is what y'all are doing.
Yep.
You know, or you can leave it. And most people don't have the choice to leave it. And I don't always think that that's the way unless God has called you to leave it. But I think survive it and change it and always change it is the better option if you
Of course.
can. And that's what you guys are doing. And I think we would rather complain about
Yeah.
our culture instead of changing it.
Yeah.
And whether it's insecurity or whatever, we don't believe, you know, that we can. And you guys have actually stepped up and done that.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredible.
I love what you said about like making your own Brook Hill, dude. We really focused on like applying what we learned at camp to real life. That's one of the notes I took, and I was like, man,
Yeah.
why can't I do this? Like, later down the road, we've gotten to like practice evangelizing this year, and we've grown so much in our faith, and we've seen our friend group grow a lot. It's crazy
yeah.
how like it's crazy how we shy away from talking about God in our friend group. Whenever it really opened my eyes when I got to go talk to random strangers, and I'm like, why can't I do this? But my boy who I'm with like every day, I tense up when I talk about God, or like when
That's
I'm
good.
holding him accountable. It's like why do we get that way? And I think it's just taking like that growth and applying it. Like we said, we've applied it to school, applied it to work.
yeah.
Like you said, seeing the need. But when you said like I've probably said this 100 times this year, but be comfortable being uncomfortable.
I literally just posted that to my
Yup.
story just a
Yeah.
second ago.
And we
Let's go. Let's
Nice.
go.
and we bring that up in clubs so much. Like we're like, y'all even coming to Jesus Club in the morning is not comfortable. You're literally waking up before everybody else. It's
That's
not
right.
it's not a normal thing. And going out and sharing is not comfortable. But like I feel like as you get closer to Jesus, so as you get closer in your walk with him, that uncomfortable turns to your new comfortable. And that's what I'm striving for right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what incredible thing
Right.
do you ever accomplish through comfort?
Nothing.
It's like
Not baseball,
No.
not
No.
work, not ministry.
No, nothing's worth like if you're doing something that's super comfortable, is it really that worth it? Like, is it? We said like pressure's a privilege, you know.
Yeah.
It's like if you're never pressured, if you're never being challenged, then what you're doing might not be that important. What you're doing it isn't significant. So we always say like really strive to. If you're in a tough time, if you're in pressure, bro, Like my favorite verse is Philippians 4:6. Like I love, don't worry about anything, instead pray about everything.
Yeah.
I love, like I'm a big worrier, and that's one of the big things that I've had to grow within my walk with Christ. But just giving it to God, like it's crazy how powerful His name is. We can just speak it and instantly. Like I pray before every game. I pray before every game, every meeting.
Yeah.
I prayed before this on the way here. Like even with him in the car, we prayed on the
Yeah.
way here. It's like pray about everything.
So let's drill down on this for a second, and then I want to get y'all's opinion. So, you guys were talking about you worked camp,
Yep.
and it just did something in you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said it was because you were helping others.
Mhm.
Okay. So now you've taken this to school, to work, to whatever. There's pretty much an epidemic in y'all's generation right now, whether
Yeah.
it's depression, suicide, anxiety.
Mhm.
And you were talking about you're nervous, you're whatever. The Bible says it's in giving that you receive, right?
Mhm.
I wonder if we have become so self-focused that it's creating these epidemics.
Yeah.
And I wonder, because I know for me personally, I had the same experience that you guys did. I didn't want to be a JC, but I did it. And when I did it, it changed my life. I've never been the same since that one moment, but it was probably one of the first selfless things I've done. Because before then, it was David.
Of course.
It was all about me.
It's how we're wired.
But I think I had way more problems when I was selfish
Yeah.
than when I was selfless. Now, maybe I have the problem now of being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but that's a sure better problem than being depressed.
Oh, for
Definitely.
sure.
So do y'all see that? Do you think that there's something there now that y'all have started this club? Sure, you have pressure. Sure, you have these things. But do you think it has helped y'all even in this, this mental illness type stuff that people are talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We talk about this stuff all the time.
Yeah,
Like we talked
yeah.
about it. A majority of the stuff we talked about in the car. I mean, we didn't listen to music on the way here. We just talked. It's about an hour drive from my house. So,
Definitely.
but yeah, we were talking about how whenever we can get stuck thinking that, man, we're living for the Lord and everything's gonna go right. It's like I'm not gonna struggle with sin anymore. It's like I have leadership roles now. That's not me. It's not true. It's like just because you've been given opportunities does not mean that all of a sudden all your problems go away. That's not how it works. I think it really took realization of that and kind of stop feeling shame for when you sin.
Mm.
There's a big difference in conviction and shame.
Yeah.
And
Good.
you have to know that, man, just because you're better, just because you've been working at getting better and serving the Lord, doesn't mean you're not a sinner anymore.
Mhm.
You still are. I mean, you can be better. And we're gonna sin. We wouldn't need a savior if we didn't sin. It's
Yeah.
like, it's awesome. God's real and God's here. Like He's in this room, but we need Him. And it's like, I think it just took realizing that no matter, even if you're going through hard times, you're still going to be faced, or even if you're going through a good time where you're with God, challenges are to come.
Yeah, and how you're saying one of the biggest things I've learned about doing this club and all that is just I need to put myself to the side. Like how you're talking about that helped me so much. Just being kind of humble. This club has really humbled me because there's been
Yeah.
times where
Yeah.
I've gotten to question about biblical knowledge, and that's when I had to step back. I'm like, oh, I don't know this,
know.
and I had to let someone else answer that question for them. I'm like, wow, okay, but that gets you to start going. I'm like, okay, well now I need to be my Bible more. I need to be prayed up more and stuff. So yeah,
But I think it's powerful
Yeah.
because, you start to lead, and the biggest thing that starts to grow is your ego.
Mhm.
yeah, yes sir.
For sure.
You're humble and insecure when you start.
Yep.
Then you get a following, and you start thinking, I got to have all the answers,
Yep.
right?
And we don't.
We don't. And I like to say the smartest person in the room is the room itself,
Right.
right? It's not me. And as soon as you start thinking you're the smartest person in the room, either you're in the wrong room or your ego's too big.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
And usually it's just your ego's too big because
Yeah.
you're probably not the smartest person. But it's so good to be humbled, and owning the I don't know is huge as a
Yeah.
leader, because you start acting like you can start making stuff up and get the
That's-
scripture wrong, right?
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's
we-
not good.
We really have talked about, that's one of our big things too, false prophesizing. We haven't
Yeah.
gone to sermon, we haven't gone to school.
Seminary, yeah.
Seminary school,
yeah.
It's we aren't preachers. It's
Right.
we make it our purpose that what we say is not our opinions.
That's
It's
right.
the Bible's opinions.
Yeah.
It's
Come on.
God's opinions. It's we don't want to be the reason somebody's confused on scripture. And so when we remember sometimes we read verses and we don't leave stuff out. It's like that's not for us to decide what gets left out. It's the Bible. And there's be sometimes we'll go and it'll be like, what does this verse mean? And I love it when they ask questions because that means their head's rolling. It means they're listening. Yeah. It's like I love that. But there's sometimes it's like, dude, thank you for the question. I don't know. I encourage you to go home and read it. It's like there's been stuff like I'm stumped on this. I'm actually going to go, and we do it on Wednesdays, and I go to church on Wednesday nights. And so I can usually, if I have a question, I just ask the pastor that night.
Definitely.
And it's like, it's huge because we usually meet on, Fridays? Sometimes Mondays because we'll procrastinate. But
It's true.
That's real, man. That's real. Yeah.
But we work with it, and there'll be times it's like, man, this verse stumps us, and we'll go as a group. It's like, man, I don't really know, and it's like, if we're met with a question, say I don't know. We're not
right.
We're not gonna. We really try and not be self-righteous. It's like that, and it's hard because as humans we are. It's like,
but how awesome to both say, hey, why don't you go talk to your pastor?
Yeah,
I'm going to talk to my pastor.
Yeah. Definitely.
Then let's come back together and figure this out. I think our world would be in a whole lot better position if we start doing that. You know, politics is so explosive today.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like I'm in my corner and you're in your corner and we're never going to come together and we're never going to search for truth. And I think our biggest problem in our world today is the search for truth.
Yeah.
We're not hungry for truth. We're hungry for my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think y'all's approach to leadership is a healthy approach. It's a humble approach, and I think it's going to lead to truth.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we got to have more of that, what you guys are doing. If y'all could create a culture like that, if we all were doing that, I just think it would be so much better. I think there's a lot more unity and answers out there when we come at it from that heart.
100%.
And that's why, like, this Jesus Club, our last Jesus Club before this, we did a testimony day. So we had 4 of our friends come up and share their testimony. And that's what we're just trying to start. We're trying to start, like, maybe someone in that club saw someone else and that inspired them to go out and share their testimony. Because, like, I know when I go share the word, first you got to connect. But that's how you connect is by sharing your testimony. Not everyone's going to relate to a verse right away. They're not going to relate to a sermon right away, but they're going to relate to you telling your own story, how Jesus brought you out of that struggle, you know? So I always say that, and then I give it into the gospel, and that's what we tell our people. We just want them to go out and spread the word, you know? That's what we're trying to cultivate.
It's our biggest tool. Testimony is our biggest tool, and we got to share our testimonies, and we got to do it. We had a Jesus rally. We had a group from California come and meet with us, and it's mind-blowing. This is
so awesome.
I remember it happened, and it was like we were planning for months, and I was like, that's cool. And then when it got there, I was like, this is wild. There's no way this is happening. And we hosted it. We got it approved by our principal.
So share a little bit about that. Didn't someone contact you?
Yeah, so one of our members of our club is Caden, Caden Rhodes. He's had a contact with one of the people who's a part of Jesus Club or Circuit Riders. And they're in California, and they reached out, and we had like a meeting one day, like during our lunch
on Zoom.
Yeah, like we met in like a closet so that we could talk with them, because during lunch, I mean, that's the only time we can really meet. They couldn't meet during after school because we have sports, and we couldn't meet with them on the weekends because they're busy. So we're like, all right, we got to do this during lunch, and so we sacrificed our lunch that day, went to a closet and just had a meeting, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. So we got it approved from our principal. We had a meeting with her, and she was like, yeah, that's fine. So we posted up posters everywhere. I mean, urinal poster. So
yeah, I printed out like 20. I printed out 20 at first. I marked it up, made it, and then I'm like, nah, I got to get more. So we did like 140 everywhere. And like you're saying, every single urinal has a Jesus Club poster, and it just like got the word out.
And that's the way we spread the light at our school.
But you got to do the work.
Yeah.
You got to do the work. Hetty would always say this, you got to pay the price.
Yeah.
Who's willing to pay the price?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whether it's monetary in making copies, or time in sacrificing lunch, or going and putting the posters up, nothing just happens.
Yeah.
That's good.
God uses people. God limits himself to us, right? He can do anything.
Yeah.
But he uses people who will be faithful. I mean, it's powerful what you guys have done.
And I'll tell you this, like, dude, it's easy to not like acknowledge when stuff is done for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy, like, man, that got done. That's awesome, dude. He does a lot. Like, it's crazy. I mean, those posters, he'd already posted them. We're like, do you need help? He's like, I got them posted. And then one day I'm in class and I look out and I'm walking around. I'm like, I'm seeing all these posters. I'm like, that's Sam's posters. He put them all up in a day. Or I'm guessing. I mean, we have a little 9th grade academy too. And did you go over there with him on 9th grade academy, or did you have like your sister put them up?
Yeah, I went out there.
Okay, so he went over to another campus too and put them up. Like, I mean, it was crazy. I had people, when I got to baseball next day, I mean, 9th graders, all graders, like, who put all these posters? They're everywhere. I can't even go to the bathroom without seeing it. It's like, it's awesome. It's huge, and it's great. He's done a great job with that. He works hard.
Well, I think,
too, bro.
yeah, but I think, I mean, you guys, but what happens is God puts it on our heart, and I think God puts it on everybody's heart to step up in a way wherever they're at, right? That you don't have to be at Robinson. You can be anywhere. God is calling everybody to step up. Then they can want to, but if you don't put in the work, it's not going to happen.
Nope.
Definitely.
So, I mean, that's the process. God lays it on your heart. You're like, you say yes, but then if you don't do anything about it, then you're not going to make an impact. And I think that's what's so special of what you guys have done.
Yeah.
You know, and anybody can do this. You know,
yes, anybody.
You know, and I'm not trying to downplay you guys. Y'all aren't special. You're just two dudes
Exactly.
that said yes to the Lord.
Like we said, yeah,
Yes, sir.
just two high school dudes.
And I think as I read the Bible, any story, Esther, Joseph, Mary, right, David, none of these people were special.
Yeah.
They were just people that said, yeah, Moses had a stutter, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
you know, Daniel just said, no, I'm going to keep praying.
Yeah.
We're going to put you in there with the lions. Okay. I mean, that's not special. That's just saying yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you guys have done. And that's what I want. You know, I don't want people to hear this and go, well, man, I just can't do what Sam and Coen are doing.
Yeah.
You know, well, Sam and Coen are just so talented, or what? Y'all are just two dudes
Right?
that are playing soccer, playing baseball.
That's it.
Going to public. Oh, well, they go to private school, right? Or they homeschool, or what? No, they go to public school. I mean, right?
Yeah.
But how many times do we make excuses to why we
Always.
can't?
Always.
Yeah. It's all about just action. Like our first club, like we said, was not pretty. It was we were getting football thrown at us and all
Not
this stuff. It
organized.
was not pretty. But like it's just about reps. You know, you got to take action. Everything happens with practice. You know, our first Jesus Club post wasn't pretty. You know what I mean? Now we got down to like a format how we do things. We have a format of how we make meetings. We have a format of kind of how we run Jesus Club. You know, not everything's going to be pretty your first time, and that's okay. You have to fail to learn. You know, it's okay to fail.
And I think our first club was at like 7. Like I think we were like, dude, we're gonna go an hour and a half. No, dude, we were done by like 7:45, and they're all like, now what do we do? It's like, I'm gonna go get breakfast. Like now we're going like 7:30, and we're running out of time. It's like that's how good the conversation is. Like we said, we had testimonies this week, and like they almost got cut short. We got it just in time. But they almost got cut short. It's like that's how the conversations were when we first started. People didn't want to speak. It's awkward. It's a weird thing to like raise your hand because we're not the people just up there preaching. It's like it's a conversation. We want people to grow. We want people to have questions. And so after everything, we always open it up. And as a group, we're talking, and it can seem like they said it can seem like a podcast at times because some people are just quiet some mornings. It's an early morning.
Yeah.
But dude, we have our friends and we'll say, hey, man, if you step up and start talking, others will. It's like just be that guy who starts it. And then it's crazy. You'll have people all open up. I really like this verse because of this. And this is what's going on in my life. And then you don't know that about that person, and now you do.
Yeah.
And that's happened with testimonies too. Like I have, again, all 4 of the people that share testimonies today were our friends. And or on Wednesday. And they learned stuff about us when we got to share our testimony on stage. I'd never used a microphone. I got to do it there. I guess I'm doing it now too. But a lot of firsts. And yeah, it was kind of awkward. But we had to sit down one day. They were like, we want to share our testimonies. Like, all right, let's run through it real quick. And I didn't know that about them. And I'd been around this dude since one of them first grade. And
Wow.
I didn't know about this story. And it kind of shakes you. It's like, dude, why is this something that's so, why did it take me this long to really get real with them? Why did we have so much small talk about like the Chiefs suck? Why are we talking about like over there talking about sports teams all the time? Sometimes there's more real stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we're talking about Taylor and Travis Kelce. I
Right?
mean,
Exactly.
and that's what our friendship's based on.
Exactly.
You know, it's crazy because the depth that you start to create
Yeah.
and the real friendships. Because you know when you know someone you're really there for them.
Oh
Yeah.
Shallow friendships, they're not there for you,
Nope.
and you're not there for them.
Nope.
But when you start to hurt for someone else, you're like, dude, I didn't know you went through that, you know?
Definitely.
And now there's a deeper love, and, you know, you know, you talked about school shootings, and you talked about suicide and some of this kinds of stuff. When we really begin to care and share and learn about one another, real ministry starts to take place, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how you change a school. Dude, all of a sudden, how crazy would it be if Robinson is the place everybody wanted to be,
Dude,
right?
That would be cool.
come on.
But that's just culture.
Yeah.
And culture comes ultimate from Christ. I mean,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
be honest, right? Love, you know, caring for one another, forgiveness,
The fruits of the Spirit.
the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
It's kind of a thing.
Yeah, kind of. It's a
You
good
know,
thing.
and so let's dig down on this. So y'all were saying, I would imagine there's two types of people in your group. There are people who wanted to share about the Lord but were scared,
Yep.
and then there were people that didn't know the Lord,
Yep.
right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably the only two types
Yeah.
there can be. And so, but it took somebody like you guys to break the ice. I think there were others that wanted to.
Yeah.
They
Definitely,
just
definitely.
didn't have that. They just weren't brave enough, and they
Yeah.
needed others to help them be brave enough, right? To share. Have y'all seen that? Is that
Oh.
something?
Definitely.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why we have these opportunities like the testimonies and stuff. And we have people, this was really recently, we had people come up and like, could we do like a separate club on like a different day and like do Psalms 8? I'm like, you don't have to go through us.
Yeah,
We're
it's-
not, y'all can go out and share. This
We're
is
not
why
the
we.
mafia.
This is not a
Yes.
I'm not the
rival.
gang. I'm not, that's not the
No.
head
I'm like,
gang.
I'm like, hey, we'll show up if you need any help. We got you. I'll post something on the Jesus Club Instagram. Like anything you need, we'll be there to support you. But you don't have to come through us.
It's like,
Go
no,
out and share the
You're
word.
trying to take our clients. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not what it's like.
Yeah, but you know, some people are competitive like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
man.
Oh,
And they're
yeah.
territorial and they're controlling. And I'm just telling you, if y'all can keep this heart, dude, that's Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Jesus Club.
Yeah.
When you don't care, when you're like, dude, start it, do it, whatever, go make disciple. Dude, guys, that's not normal, just so y'all know.
Yeah.
That's true leadership, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we talk about on this podcast is leadership. That is real leadership when you're not in competition with some. That's cool.
Yeah.
Definitely. We just want as much. I want to bring as much souls with me up to heaven as I can. Like
Yeah.
that's one of my main goals. I want to spread the word as much as I can.
We're going to talk about that a lot, like goals. Two of our big goals. I mean, he calls us to have a relationship with Christ and make heaven crowded.
Yeah.
It's like, so that's what we try and do. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun though. It's been great.
Man, I hope people are encouraged to hear about this.
Yeah.
You know, have y'all seen teachers? Have teachers been coming to you guys saying, dude, thank y'all? Because have you noticed, like, does it help in the classroom? You know what I'm saying? Are you seeing people like pay attention a little more and stop, mature? Are you seeing maturity happen a little
Yeah.
bit?
Definitely. Like I walked into a classroom and then one of our guys from Jesus Club like cussed like real loud and then he turned over and he's like, "Oh, my bad, bro." And I was like, I'm like,
That's the present that we have now,
Yeah.
though. It's like, again, we've had kids who've missed club, and we'll walk in and see them taking notes on the Bible. They'll be like, "What did we do today?"
yeah.
It's like we were at Romans 12. And they're like, "All right," and we'll kind of tell them their notes, and they'll be in Romans 12. It's like that was not a thing. It's like
Never.
what it is now.
Yeah.
And we've had teachers who've come in, and not every teacher is Christian, and so like they might be like, "I like what you're doing. It's like it's a way to step up," but they're not all supporting it. It's
Right.
like it's a public school at the end of the day. It's like Christianity is not pushed on our school.
I know, like, there's, for one example, I went into class and then I was wearing my Jesus Club shirt. And then I asked some guy, I was like, "Hey, you coming next week?" And then he was like, "Yeah, yeah." And then this teacher was like, "Jesus Club." And I was like,
Oh,
"Yeah."
yeah,
I was
this
like,
was
I
crazy.
was like, "Yes, ma'am." She was like, is that kind of weird, like Jesus, God?" I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And she's like, "Well, isn't that blasphemy?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, ma'am, no, ma'am." I was like, "We're not saying anything bad. We're not claiming to be anything. We just want to spread the word of Jesus." And she's like, "I don't know." And she's like, starts looking around the classroom for support, and everyone's just like, "What?"
Is this weird? Isn't this weird? And she's like, everybody's like, no.
Like
no."
we get stuff like that, and
Just
then like
you.
I've had people like another teacher come up to me and was like, "Look, I like what you're doing. I love what you're doing, but isn't Jesus Club kind of like culty? Like, isn't that kind of like a cult?" I was like,
what?
I was like, "No, sir." And I was like, he was like, "Well, I feel like if you had a different name, it'd be better." I was like, "Sir, I mean, if people get discouraged by the name Jesus Club, like I just want people to see the name Jesus. You know, like if we have 140 signs around school. If they just see the name Jesus, like that's already a little snowball in their head, you know, a little effect."
Yeah. And I like how you said when you were talking about do kids like come in there and they're like they don't want to talk. A big thing, we started bringing donuts at the start. And we're like, if we can get them here for the donuts, maybe they'll like
Yes.
accidentally hear something that flips a switch that starts a fire. And so we tried the donut effect, and I mean, after a couple weeks, it's like these donuts get a little pricey.
They get a little pricey.
So we've had people who have we've had youth leaders who came and sat in, and they've sponsored us for the day and brought donuts, which was clutch. And we've had kids in there that have offered to pay. It's been great. We've gotten to a point now where we have a consistent, I'd probably say around 40 people consistently who show up, and they don't need donuts. They're there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And they're comfortable talking, but a way that we found out this is working is to get them talking is we change it up. We don't make it the same thing every day.
Right.
Because if you make it the same thing every day, the same people talk and then the same people are quiet.
That's right.
So we make it a thing. I'd probably say once every month and a half, 2 months, we'll go into small groups where we'll split up. All 4 of us will go people, and we'll have like 15, 20 people each in our group. And we'll just dive into the word that day.
Okay.
And they'll kind of go around, and it's super easy to talk when it's 5 people that it's your friends. Because usually they go in their little friend groups, and they talk, and it's like, see, this is easy. Do this when we're in a big club. Because you never know what'll impact somebody. So we talk about clubs like that. We've had testimony days. It's kind of new.
Yeah.
That was our second one. We shared a testimony. We did it on stage.
It's cool.
And that was
That's
a
a
lot.
great mix up,
Yeah.
though. That's a
Yeah.
great way to mix it up.
Yeah. And we have our normal club, and we had, whenever circuit riders came, they talked, and they got to kind of teach us the 5-finger evangelism, which was great.
Okay.
And I remember they were all like, before that we did small group, and then we did evangelism, and then we had a week off for snow. We're like, let's just do a normal club. It's like, I'm missing a normal club.
Good.
And so we got to dive back into club, and then we went back into testimonies this week. So
Yep.
it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And those small groups are so good because, like, you just get to know the people more, you know, like we're up there, we don't get to talk to everybody, you know, so it's good. And then like I've seen people that finally got the taste, you could say like they got to kind of, because in small groups, that's when you can kind of like call out a little people. I'm not going to call someone out in a big Jesus club, like that's,
No,
I'm
not
not
cool.
going to do
Yeah.
that. But in a small group, you get to kind of call them out a little bit, like, hey, what do you think about this and stuff? And then they finally get to say for the first time, like, oh, this is nice. It's not as hard as I thought. Like you said, it's just about taking action. It really is.
Yeah.
What church do y'all go to? Do y'all go to the same church, different churches?
Different churches.
Yeah,
Okay.
different churches.
I go to Fellowship on Sundays, and then I go to New Life on Wednesdays.
Okay. So do you have like Tanner? Are you with Tanner at New Life?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
are
sir.
you-
And Justin,
And I don't know Justin. You know Tyler Kemp over at Fellowship?
Tyler. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Those are my guys.
Yeah, they're great people.
Yeah, great guys.
people.
Yeah, I go to Pleasant Grove on Wednesdays.
Okay.
It's like a minute from my house, and I go to
Okay.
Parkway Place Baptist Church. I'm Baptist.
Okay.
So,
I
but-
love that.
yeah.
I love that. It's very Brook Hill to be like different churches.
Oh yeah, we'll
you
switch it
know.
up every once in a while. Like if there's an event that day and people are like, hey, you should come. It's like yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's great to hear from other pastors. I love my home church. I love Parkway Place. I love being there. I've been there ever since I can remember. But
Cool.
it's nice to have that little switch up and
Yep.
hearing other. I wouldn't say perspectives because it's still the Bible, but at the same time, it's like
Yep.
it's interpretations kind of, and it's like it's nice.
So let's talk about obstacles.
Yeah.
Let's talk about things that have made it difficult. Let's talk about maybe even some opposition that you guys have faced and how, because I don't care what you do, anytime you're in leadership, you're going to have obstacles and you're going to have opposition. Obstacles are just things that you got to get around to, figure out how we're going to make this happen. And then opposition is maybe even people that have maybe come out and tried to, attack is probably not necessarily the word, but just made it difficult for you. And how have y'all dealt with that? Because both of those create discouragement.
Yeah.
And usually discouragement causes people to quit.
Yep.
And I think so, the Bible talks about there is an enemy. The Bible talks
Yeah.
about that he is trying to stop us. And those who are average and those who aren't doing anything, he doesn't have to worry about them. But anytime fruit starts happening, you can know that there are going to be obstacles and opposition to what you're doing. And I also think the Lord allows us to go through these tests, right? So that
Definitely.
James 1 says that we'll be mature and complete, lacking nothing. So count it all joy when you face trials, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so kind of let's talk about maybe some obstacles that you guys have had and had to overcome them.
I mean, like I said, with like thinking everything's gonna be easy, even when you're in your good times. But when you're put in leadership roles, it's not. Like I love how when I was put in leadership roles, I was challenged. I was like, when I sin, when I mess up, they're like, aren't you like Jesus Club? Like, aren't
Right.
you a leader?
Aren't you supposed to be perfect?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why'd you say that? That's wrong.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like you aren't any better just because you're a leader. But instead, you have people who are holding you accountable. You have a reason to do good. It's like we're all supposed to be showing God's character. We're all supposed to be representing God well, so that we can point people in the right direction. But I think it's almost like emphasized and highlighted that like you have to now. Like you can't be a leader who is living one way one minute and the other way the other.
Yeah, I like what you said in former podcast, but hypocrisy kills leadership.
No,
you
it's
know,
the death of leadership.
and one of the, I guess, biggest obstacles with doing this club was like I had to give up my old self. You know, I had to my old self had to die, and I had to find my new life in Christ. Like, I mean, that's literally what it is. And then as I've seen, like you said, like I thought, like as soon as I get this leadership thing, like it's all going to be easy. It's not. You know, the enemy like attacks you even more. Like there's more temptation on you, and that's where you just got to be prayed up. You know, stay in your word, stay praying with God. Please give me the strength to endure this and all that.
It's crazy how many like quotes from the Brookdale podcast that we use.
Yes.
I mean, I was watching Jackson Dummers, and he was like, people would rather have a real leader than a right one. It's like, again, like we said, we don't always have to have the right answer.
Right.
But like when you mess up, own up to it. Be
That's
like, that's my bad. It's like, don't like try and combat it and be like, man, I didn't mean it like that. Or just be like, you're right. I need to do better. It's like, and I will. Like, thank you for, like, I want you to keep on holding me accountable. It took that maturity to kind of, like, we're going to mess up. And people are going to see it, especially when you're kind of on a pedestal. And I think that's your opposition is once you get put up there, when you mess up, all your stuff is bigger. All your problems get bigger. And so I think you have to be grounded in your faith, and you have to like center your focus onto God and not like your own self-righteous thoughts. I think that's the biggest thing.
I think it's important to say we're doing this together. You know, I'm not leading y'all. You know, we're doing this together here. We're all on this journey together. I'm not someplace you guys aren't. Right. You know, and I love, we shared at Lead Weekend before we started. I said, you know what? I may say something different than I said last year because I learned what I said last year was wrong, you know, in leadership.
That's good.
And so, you know, just to be transparent, just to be real, you know, I think is so important. And I think it's important that, you know, so obviously you guys are leading, but you're also submitted to your church or your pastor or your youth pastor, your parents or whatever. And I think it's important that we have that accountability, right?
Yeah.
But before we start to try and hold others accountable.
Yeah.
So I think it helps you to stay grounded, right, into being real. Because, boy, one of the biggest things I've been talking about with some of my friends is what wrecks leaders is unchecked power.
Right.
Right?
Definitely.
And and people start to manipulate others. You know, based on this position that they have acquired. And so, you know, I just think it's so cool, you know, that you guys are doing that. So maybe talk about some of your fears that you've had, and maybe that kind of plays into what you've just said. But, you know, what are some of the fears that you have faced of, you know, maybe it is what will others think? You know, I don't know what.
One of mine definitely is just like I never want to lead someone in the wrong direction, you know, with like saying a scripture or anything. That's my biggest fear. So that's why I always like pray so much before club. That's why we put so much preparation into club. And everything I say up there, I never say my own thoughts. I always back it up with a scripture. Like I make sure everything that I say is backed up with the word.
Yeah, and we started at first, like we said, we learned before we got good at this. Like it took a minute. And when we first started, we had to like seriously sit down and be like, what did this mean to you? And sometimes our interpretation was wrong. And that's when we were like, yeah, that's not right. and that took some time, but now we've gotten down to like where we've figured it out. Like we've gotten what we need to get from it. And it's like we're not over here saying the wrong thing because we've been checked. Like there's some smart people in our Bible study. Like there's been times where somebody said something and I'm just go raise their hand was like, that's just not right. Like I don't think it's right. And I remember like tensing up for him. I was like, dude, that's awkward. But man, that was huge. I'd rather them say that because in that moment I was thinking, I was like, man, I don't know if that's right. And I was gonna wait until we weren't in club anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, but then all those people there, like like were thinking that's what was true,
Right.
but that wasn't. And because that was such a big moment for her. Like,
Oh, that's a moment right there because you have a choice.
yeah,
Yeah.
Either you're going to use your power and influence to give an ego response,
yep,
right? And like shut them down, which is what people do today,
yep,
right? Look at politics where they like shut people down instead of, hey, you know what? That's a great question. And if I'm wrong, we want to get this right.
Definitely.
right,
That heart changes lives,
yeah.
right?
You definitely have to have a soft heart. You cannot have a hardened heart at all.
And a big thing we always talk about is like being a leader. The best person to look at as a leader is Jesus. It's
Yeah.
like he's the golden leader. He's the best
The
person to
perfect
watch.
example.
Yeah, like we always talk about being a servant to others, like being selfless a servant. I mean, back then people's feet were gross, and
Yeah.
Jesus literally cleaned the disciples' feet. And it's like serve others and live in a way that shows others what to do. Don't always tell them. Like you said, hypocrisy is one of the biggest things for leadership. It's a killer. So we shouldn't be like so quick to be like, yeah, fix your life, like fix this. This is wrong. Instead, live a way like that is representing that, because that's what we start doing with our friends. Like we don't always like we hold each other accountable, but it's like we're not going to be like, hey bro, you're messing up. Like you need to get straight.
Right.
But that's not what we do. We're
And
like,
everyone watching, like my biggest piece of advice that helped me so much in my faith is just get like 2 or 3 guys, get 2 or 3 people that you're close with and that you can just be completely real. And like that's what me and him and then another guy from Catholic, we meet up every single Monday, and then we just say everything. We have these list of questions and we're just real, like hold me accountable. And then we like text throughout the week, hey, how are you doing on this? How are you doing on this? And it helps you a lot. You have to confess your sin. You can't just keep it in.
very similar to the bro talk questions.
Yeah.
Very similar. Yeah.
Very similar, yeah.
Also, if you're not in a bro talk, get plugged. Those are
Yeah.
great. But
You know, I don't know that I've talked a lot about the bro talk
Yeah,
on
those are
here. You
huge.
know,
those have been great.
They have been great.
yeah. So we do 8 Sunday nights in the spring, and you're in Bro Talk 3.
Yup.
You're in Bro Talk 1 with Jay.
Yes,
Isn't that
sir.
right? And so, man, we're just y'all are going through a little bit of wild at heart kind of concept with John Eldridge. I don't know if you really know that that's what y'all are doing, but that's what y'all are doing. And we're just talking about manhood stuff. What makes you strong men. We've been talking about perseverance and different things like that. I love the Bro Talk.
I look forward to it. It's a highlight.
But I liked what you said. I don't know if you realize you said it. Me and this guy from Catholic. Dude, I love that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Because here's a guy from Baptist. Here's a guy from Catholic. Here's a guy from non-denominational, which is really denominational. But we're from all walks.
Yeah.
We're all Jesus followers,
Right?
right? And we're not in this corner here, and I'm not going to do. But, dude, as men of Christ come together, and we all go to different church, dude, that's Jesus. That's real,
Yes.
right? And that's where growth happens, where we're not all about our little corner and my little tribe, right? In my little group. And I love that. I think that is powerful in what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, and it's just like knowing that you have this. You can do it different ways. Like Catholic does it a little different way. Baptist does it a little different way. There's so many different ways, but the underlying thing is Jesus. Like Jesus
Yeah.
is
In
true.
his word, yeah.
And I know, and I like knowing that I can't just sit around and like not spread the word of Jesus. I can't I knowing what Jesus has done in my life, I just can't sit around and not do it. So like I had this teammate who's Muslim, and I got to talk to him. We were just sitting in the team room before the game. It was like everyone's on their phones. I look around, he's not on his phone, and I'm just like, hey, do you mind if we can go talk for a little bit? So me and him go out, and I'm really respectful. I'm like, I just want to know more about like what do you follow? Can you just tell me? Like, and he starts telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, that's great. He's like, yeah, I basically believe everything what you believe, just not Jesus. And I was like, well, do you mind if I just kind of tell you what Jesus has done in my life? And that's like the best way to go about it is just tell him why he's where. Why do you follow him? What has he done in your life?
And it's through relationship.
Yeah.
The relationship.
That's a teammate. That's a friend.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be a punk to him. You're going to love him. And that's what Jesus did.
Yeah.
He loved people and then drew him to himself.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So you guys said you have jobs. Is that right? Where do y'all work?
In summers, we're both
summer.
lifeguards.
That's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And Brokiel has helped me so much in my job. I just watching Jet's podcast. I kind of related to that a
I
lot.
remember Jet.
The Jet shift. I know,
Uh-huh.
but coming back, going into the start of summer, right? it was just something that I kind of had this thought of like, oh, I'm just gonna work with my friends. I'm gonna do the bare minimum. I'm gonna, just do all this. And then we go into Brook Hill, and you can't do that. You got to see the need. Like, that's what y'all teach us, and you have to keep hitting all the stuff. So when I get back, my work ethic has completely changed.
Oh yeah.
And like one thing I liked about Brook Hill that taught us is just having fun doing the work. Like, you can make anything fun. Doing the trash bags. I see a girl carrying trash. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just like making it fun.
Make it a game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
that work ethic from Brook Hill got me up to a manager position in 2 months, and I don't think I would have got that without the ethics and the work ethic that I learned from Brook Hill. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I like play baseball, and as a sophomore, I got to start on varsity in center field, and so that was a big moment. And I just remember going into this off season, it's like I've always had fun with baseball, and there's always been good senior leaders. But I was like, a lot of them left, and we only had one senior this year, and so he told us as juniors we need to step up, and so like I remember just taking that like initiative and like being a leader, and I got to have a leadership role as a junior on our baseball team and getting called one of the 4 captains for the off season. It was huge, but it's like I wouldn't be that way if it wasn't for what I learned at Brook Hill. It has changed me.
Yeah.
Come on. I need to connect you with Zeb. You know Zeb?
Oh yeah,
Over
Zeb
at
and
UCA?
I had him in the Broncos.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was like freshman of the year at UCA.
Oh yeah.
He's like serious,
Uh-huh.
like about baseball.
Oh
Like,
yeah. He had a home run the other day. I saw it.
Oh yeah, yeah. But Zeb is like, he's insanely serious about his work ethic with baseball, right? And it was cool, that he worked all summer one summer.
I know.
He like called me and he said, hey, can we talk? Yeah. So we went and had lunch or dinner or something somewhere. And he's like, all right, I got one shot at this. He said, I'm going to be playing D1 baseball. I've already been accepted to UCA. He's a junior telling me this. I got one shot at working all summer. I want to work all summer this summer, and it's all I got.
Awesome.
So, and he said, I promise you, I'll kill it. I mean, he's like intense. Zeb
Yeah.
is so intense about what he does. But it'd be cool to have him like come talk to your team or something.
I had Zeb as
He's a big deal.
I had Zeb as I guess with a JC before he went all summer.
Yeah.
And with Delmer
Yeah.
in my cabin. That was a great year. We won guys night that year. It was fun.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing him next summer. Played like a little too serious in wiffle ball.
Yeah.
It was impossible to hit in
gets
field
like that.
sports. But yeah, no.
That's surprising.
We played in the state championship.
Come on, Zeb.
We played in the state championship for baseball this year, and we played at UCA. And I would tell him, I was like, Zeb, I'll be at UCA. I was like,
Did he come
state
out and watch
championship.
or?
I think he said he was in Florida or something like that.
Doesn't
He had some.
surpri-
He had
Yeah.
some game in real far away, but he like wished me luck.
Yeah, I talked to him about the podcast, and I'm probably going to get wrong what he told me, but I was like, hey, man, I want to get you on the podcast coming up this whatever. He's like, dude, I want to, but I'm going to be in like Chicago League or something. And I was like, what?
Yeah, no, it's
He's
real.
like off somewhere. I mean, he's a big deal. I think he's going to be in the show.
Yeah,
I think he's going to get there.
You're gonna play
because of
it.
his work ethic.
Yeah,
Dude's a hard worker.
yeah,
And, like you said, 2 months in, and all of a sudden you're getting a promotion. And, it's something that we've talked about, is that I got good news and bad news for you, right? It's that the bad news is everybody really sucks at their job. The good news is you're going to be the MVP in no time if you just step up and see the need.
Definitely.
right.
Right. And so, I mean, it's good news and bad news, but if you apply these leadership skills, you're going to be able to, bring everybody up with you. So
Definitely.
man, I absolutely love that. Dude, I have loved having you guys on
Yeah.
the podcast. And hey, I want to do this. I want to throw out a little thing is if anybody's still listening, if you have a story like these guys right here, we'd love to hear about it. And so I want people, Tyler, how should they message us? Hey, what about our Instagram? The one, the Brook Hill podcast that's where you put those reels on, right?
Oh yeah.
I know a whole lot. You can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Tyler knows everything. Yeah, just the Brook Hill Podcast Instagram, man. Hit us up. We'd love to know your story. Just like Coen and Sam here. These are just two dudes, man.
Yeah,
That's what we should.
Listen to other people's stories too.
We should just
That's
call
help.
this just two dudes. Just two dudes leading.
Just two dudes
Yeah.
leading. Let's go.
That's
Two Joe T dudes.
That's right. Joe T. Robinson right
Yup.
here. Dude, I'm proud of you guys, man.
Thank you.
And I want you to know, don't feel like you have to be perfect, but fight to be faithful. That's,
yeah.
Yes,
that
sir.
to me is the balance.
Oh yeah.
The balance is I don't want to be a hypocrite, but I'm never going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you live in that tension, then I think you're honoring Christ,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It's like, okay, well, it doesn't matter. Don't feel pressure. It doesn't matter what you do. I think that's not quite it, right? But I gotta be perfect. I gotta be perfect. Well, you can't live in that tension. But if you can do both, where it's like, God, I need you, and I'm just going to be faithful. And I think that's where you guys are trying to land, and I think that's what it's all about. Man, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Hey, we got to go in the other room now and find out if you got hired. I think that's going to be the key. Maybe we should tell them that they need to listen to the podcast before they make a decision on you
give
guys.
them a little time to watch it real quick, see if their opinions
I didn't
change.
get to put the Brook Hill podcast on my application, but
Oh, dang. Yeah, you're right.
We need to ask them if you can go in and say, I've also spoken on the Brook Hill podcast.
Yeah, edit that real quick.
How many JCs have done that?
I'm not sure.
So you could ask them that.
Right.
Dude, I've had so much fun hanging out with you guys.
Yes,
So
sir.
Life, Legacy, and Leadership, the Brook Hill podcast.
Let's go.
awesome.
What do you think, Zach?
That might be one of our best podcasts ever.
I think so, dude.
Let's
I
go.
was feeling
Awesome.
Dude, that was fun. And time flies, man.
I was taking notes.
How long was that?
it. Was that 45?